The Scramble for Africa, a period of rapid colonization of the African continent by European powers, fundamentally reshaped the political, social, and economic landscape of Africa, leaving a legacy that continues to influence the continent today. Prior to the late 19th century, our European presence in Africa was largely limited to coastal trading posts, with limited inland exploration or control. European interest in Africa, however, began to grow significantly during the 19th century, fueled by a complex interplay of economic, political, and social factors. Economically, the Industrial Revolution created an insatiable demand for raw materials such as rubber, cotton, palm oil, and minerals, all of which were abundant in Africa. The desire to establish new markets for European manufactured goods also played a crucial role, as Africa presented a potential, albeit undeveloped, consumer base. Politically, the rise of nationalism in Europe created a climate of intense competition between European powers, each seeking to expand their influence and prestige on the world stage. The concept of social Darwinism, a distorted application of Darwin's theory of evolution, was used to justify European dominance, arguing that European civilization was inherently superior and had a duty to civilize Africa. This pseudoscientific ideology provided a convenient rationale for the exploitation and subjugation of African peoples. The Berlin Conference of 1874 to 1875, convened by Otto von Bismarck of Germany, officially launched the Scramble for Africa. The conference established the principle of effective occupation, meaning that a European power could claim a territory if it could demonstrate sufficient control over it. This seemingly innocuous rule spurred a frantic race among European powers to stake their claims across the continent. Great Britain, driven by its desire to control trade routes and establish a vast empire, focused on acquiring Egypt, Sudan, and large swathes of East and Southern Africa. The British annexation of Egypt in 1882, ostensibly to protect the Suez Canal, provided a foothold for expanding British control over the Nile Valley and the Red Sea. France, motivated by its own imperial ambitions and the desire to counter British influence, established a vast colonial empire in West and Northwest Africa, including Algeria, Senegal, and Côte d'Ivoire. The French conquest of Algeria in 1830 laid the groundwork for further French expansion across the Sahara Desert and into sub-Saharan Africa. Germany, a latecomer to the colonial game, focused on acquiring territories in Southwest Africa, Namibia, Tanzania, German East Africa, and Cameroon. The brutal suppression of the Hero and Nama peoples in German Southwest Africa between 1904 and 1908, known as the Hero and Namakwa genocide, serves as a stark reminder of the violence inherent in colonial rule. Italy, seeking to emulate other European powers, attempted to conquer Ethiopia, but was decisively defeated at the Battle of Adwa in 1896, a rare instance of African resistance thwarting European ambitions. Belgium, under the personal rule of King Leopold II, brutally exploited the Congo Free State, now the Democratic Republic of Congo, for its rubber resources. The atrocities committed in the Congo Free State, including forced labor, mutilation, and mass murder, shocked the world and eventually led to international condemnation and the annexation of the territory by Belgium in 1908. Portugal, with its historical presence in Angola and Mozambique, sought to expand its colonial possessions in southern Africa. The Scramble for Africa was not solely a European endeavor. African societies actively resisted colonial rule, although their resistance was often brutally suppressed. Resistance movements took various forms, from armed conflict to diplomatic negotiation to passive resistance. The Maji Maji Rebellion in German East Africa between 1905 and 1907 a pan-ethnic uprising against German rule, exemplifies the scale and intensity of African resistance. The Ashanti Confederacy in Ghana, under the leadership of Yei Asantewaa, mounted a fierce resistance against British rule in the late 19th century. The Berlin Conference and the subsequent Scramble for Africa resulted in the arbitrary partitioning of the continent, disregarding existing ethnic, linguistic, and political boundaries. This disregard for local realities created artificial states that often contained rival ethnic groups, laying the groundwork for future conflicts. The imposition of European legal and political systems further marginalized African societies and undermined their traditional governance structures. The colonial economy was designed to extract resources and benefit European powers, often at the expense of African development. Forced labor, cash crop agriculture, and the suppression of local industries created economic dependency and hindered the diversification of African economies. Education was often limited and designed to train Africans for subordinate roles in the colonial administration or economy. The Scramble for Africa had a profound and lasting impact on the African continent, shaping its political, social, and economic development for generations to come. The legacy of colonial boundaries continues to fuel conflicts in many African nations. The economic structures established during colonialism have contributed to persistent poverty and inequality. The cultural impacts of colonialism, including the suppression of indigenous languages and traditions, continue to be felt today. The fight for independence from colonial rule, which gained momentum in the mid-20th century, ultimately led to the dismantling of colonial empires and the emergence of independent African nations. However, the challenges of nation-building and economic development in the post-colonial era have proven to be complex and enduring. The Scramble for Africa stands as a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of imperialism and the enduring legacy of colonialism on the African continent.